Hi. So today we'll try to understand what's the difference between CashBox 1 and why we came up with CashBox V2. So what are the improvements? Before understanding CashBox V2, let's try to understand what the current CashBox does quickly. So the current CashBox is essentially a perpetual counterparty for any asset which you like. So you can say that, okay, I want to buy a specific asset token, which can be, let's say, the Australian REIT or some tokenized property, etc. You say that, okay, I will always be prepared to buy this asset token at a certain price. So you can set, let's say, $1 or one DAI. So you put in DAI on this side, and somebody can put in their asset token over here, and they can take the DAI out, depending upon what the price point was. Now, we tested this out. It works fine. We also created a staking mechanism. So if nobody is, so initially when you put in DAI, you get CashBox tokens. These CashBox tokens represent your ownership of this pool. So that when somebody puts in asset tokens over here, you can then claim the asset tokens by putting in your CashBox tokens back and getting the asset tokens. Okay. So this is the overall model of the CashBox, the current version of the CashBox. There are two limitations over here. The first limitation is when somebody puts in DAI over here, then they always have to get CashBox tokens out first. Okay. Even if the asset tokens were existing over here, you first still have to get the CashBox tokens, and then you have to put the CashBox tokens back in, and then you mint DAI. Then you take the asset tokens out. Now, that's a bit of a wasteful step. Okay. The second issue is if somebody has asset tokens, okay, over here, somebody has asset tokens and nobody has put in DAI yet. So the CashBox is empty at this point in time. Then you can't really put the asset tokens. So if there was no DAI in it, then you are simply prevented from putting in asset tokens, which means that you can't do anything with the CashBox as long as somebody comes there and puts in DAI. So it is only a buy CashBox, a buy side CashBox. If somebody wants to sell, then they can't really do that, as they always need a buyer first. You can't say that, okay, I'm willing to sell, find me a buyer. Okay. So there's a limitation in this current version of the CashBox. So in order to resolve that, we have created a newer version of the CashBox. In this CashBox, what happens is we do two things. If somebody has asset tokens to sell, they can put in the asset tokens into the CashBox, and they get what we call as asset box tokens. Okay. What that means is, this is the reverse of the original CashBox. What that means is, I will be always be willing to sell asset tokens at one DAI per asset token price. At the agreed price. Okay. What this means is, even if there was no DAI in the box, you can put in your asset tokens. So let's say this was a CashBox for an open token. You can put in your open tokens over here, and say, okay, I'm willing to sell the open tokens at a certain price, and anybody who wants to buy them, they can approach it, the CashBox. So that when somebody comes who wants to buy the open tokens or the asset tokens at a certain price, they can simply put their DAI in the CashBox and they get the open tokens out. Okay. So a couple of things happened over here. One thing was, we are now allowing people who want to sell something, sell the asset tokens. We are allowing them to sell the asset tokens at a certain price, put the sell order in place, and they can wait for the buyer to materialize. Okay, and they get asset box tokens, which represent their sell order. And second thing which happened over here, which we did not discuss, was this time around, if somebody had DAI, they don't need to get CashBox tokens because they are trying to buy open tokens anyway. So there's no need to have that additional step. So these open tokens, you put in DAI from here to here, and you get CashBox open tokens out. There's no need for minting CashBox tokens. CashBox tokens are only required when there aren't enough open tokens out there to fill your order. Okay, so what's happening over here is now you can put in buy orders like before, where if there was no asset token holder who are putting anything yet, then you put in your DAI and you get CashBox tokens which represent your open order. And if you are an asset token holder and there was no cash in the box, then you can still put the asset in the box and you get asset box tokens back. So effectively what we have is now a cash box which is double-sided. So on both sides of the equation, it can work. It can work for the cash token holder, and it can work for the asset token holders. Neither party has to wait. Both parties can put in, and whenever the other party materializes, the transaction happens. So this is a much more efficient system. It also eliminates the need to mint tokens if they are not required. If the asset tokens were already here, then you don't really mint asset box tokens, cash box tokens. So if the asset token was already here and you put in DAI, then you get the asset token. And similarly, if the DAI was already here, then you put in asset and you get DAI. Okay, and all based upon a predetermined price. So this is a much more efficient system as well as less waste, and it enables both buy as well as sell side orders. That's it. Thank you so much.